Hello and welcome again. This is Robert Schein, Managing Director and Partner of Blanke Schein Wealth Management. Today is April 5th of 2022. Markets are moving. We're going to discuss what markets are paying attention to, so you should too. So thanks for watching. So today markets are moving down as a result of the Federal Reserve Chairman, Vice Chairman, Laird Brainerd, when she spoke about how the Fed needs to be more hawkish and more aggressive than they originally thought. Now, that's no surprise because we all know, everyone knows, inflation's rampant everywhere from the supply chain to the kitchen table to gas at the pump. So we've discussed this for well over a year. So the fact that the Fed is now talking about it ultimately is infuriating to not only all of us as consumers, but the market specifically. The Fed is way behind the yield curve. I talked about this in my Bloomberg interview last week when I was on Bloomberg, and they basically were asking me, hey, what's going on? And ultimately what I recounted for them, as I'll recount for you right now, is that since March, at the time of the interview last week, since March 21st, I actually did some calculations and I found out that the Federal Reserve was, in the last 10 days, talked 21 times, actually 22 if you factor in today over this period of time, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And ultimately, what my grandfather would ultimately say at this moment in time is less talk and more work. He always told us that to my brother and I, and ultimately at the end of the day, it's about what you do versus what you say. And so the Federal Reserve is trying to talk interest rates higher and slow down the economy as a result without raising interest rates. But the reality is they have to raise interest rates. How do we know that we're behind the curve? Well, mortgages, the 30-year fix just hit 5% today. We haven't seen that since 2019, as well as the 10-year treasury is at 256. Again, higher highs on all of the ultimately signs of the economy. So the economy will be slowing. We're seeing sort of inklings of stagflation, where inflation runs rampant, but wages don't keep up and goods and services are just, all out of whack that we're seeing right now. Ultimately, as my grandfather said, the great Peter Schein, less talk and more work. So what we'd like to see from the markets specifically, would like to see as well, is that the Federal Reserve stop talking about it and just do it. In fact, an emergency rate hike of 100 basis points right now actually might become a relief. But that being said, can markets actually grind higher? Well, yeah, if we look at a sample set of 1982, when you take that, 1982 is almost deja vu all over again, because you have obviously high rampant inflation as we do today. You have a conflict with Russia as we do today. And you also have a midterm election as we do this year. If we took that calendar year, the S&P right now, year to date, and going back to the overlay of how the markets actually performed measured by the S&P 500 back in 1982, we are almost matching almost like a perfect overlay of a tracement. So from January to sort of about March, April, markets draw down. We see a relief rally, but we also see some turbulence ahead if we were to follow the same pattern in 1982, meaning that the markets will just be in a sideways movement until about August. We could see a swoosh down one more time, maybe testing lows, maybe taking out earlier lows this year, who knows? But that's what happens in 1982. But as soon as that hit in August, it was all markets higher. In fact, markets not only made up for all the losses from earlier in the year in 1982, but they went to higher highs. And then we got the decade of the 80s, because we had the Federal Reserve actually getting ahead, Volcker finally breaking the back of inflation, and markets had confidence in that. And then we saw sort of a 2-decade expansion from the 80s and 90s. So are we going to repeat it? Who knows? It could be deja vu. As of right now, the first three storylines of inflation, Russia, and everything else that we're seeing right now eerily looks like what we could see once again. So that's our update for today. Less talk and more work. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.